Hello, this is Coach Haley with another movement sequence for you. I think you'll like this one a lot. It's based on using a stick, a bar, just anything that is a long cylindrical object. It can be an Olympic bar. I'm going to be demonstrating this workout today, or this movement sequence rather, with a 5-foot long section of 1 1/4 inch PVC. It's filled with sand and then capped off on each end. It weighs about 7 pounds. It's cheap and easy to make and use for this. You can do this sequence with a broomstick. It is scalable to a number of different objects. If your goal is just to loosen up before a weightlifting session or something like that, it's great to use for that. If you are doing a snatch workout, especially if you're an Olympic lifter, this is a really good sequence to use to warm up for that. Also, just for your general physical fitness kind of thing, it's a really great set of movements. I've actually added a few things in there to give you a little bit more expansion into different planes of movement than just the particular Olympic snatch move would give you. But this set of movements is largely based on the Olympic snatch. I think those are just fun to do, and a movement sequence that encapsulates some of that seemed like a really good idea to me. So, without further ado, let me begin to demonstrate this. I'm pretty tired and pretty sore from yesterday's workout, so I'm going to use this as for another thing, which is kind of your in-between day, kind of loosen things back up, get things ready to go again tomorrow to lift heavy. So I'm going to do just a few repetitions of each of these. You can scale these. If I were doing this for general fitness, I'd probably do like 10 repetitions of each of these 10 different movements. And as weeks progressed, I would add on 5 repetitions, or I might add entire sets and cycle through it a couple of different times. There are a number of different ways to dose this. So here's the movement set. Got them all written down over here on my whiteboard for a little cheat sheet. So most of these movements are going to use an Olympic snatch grip, which basically means that you're grasping the bar wide enough so that the bar is going to rest in your fold point. If you fold here in the middle, that's where you're going to go. To make sure though that we're getting this movement correct to start with, I'm going to take the bar and go vertical with it. So the first movement is going to be just a hip hinge. I think it's great to start every workout working on your hip hinge. If you do any type of Olympic movements, any type of power movements at all, establishing a good hip hinge and having that in your muscle memory repertoire is a great place to begin. So, standard hip hinge, movement initiates with the hips backwards. This stick is staying in contact with the back of my head, with my thoracic spine region, and my sacrum. Let me show that to you from the side. Not necessarily trying to push that movement as far as you can go, just warming up and establishing that dominant hip-initiated movement pattern is what you're looking for. Okay, I'm going to go back now to my snatch with the grip, and now I'm going to do some simple deadlifts. So I'm going to take it down below the knees, back up, and I'm driving that movement through the hips. Once again, just like with that hip hinge movement that I just worked on establishing, basically a deadlift is what you're doing in that instance. There goes the garbage truck. Hey guys. So that's our first movement. Next movement is going to be a high pull. Reestablish your snatch grip. And this is going to be pulling the bar as high as you can without turning the wrist over. Hopefully you'll be able to pull that bar in the vicinity of your chin or your nose. People with really good mobility in their shoulders might be able to actually get this up above their head in this movement. But it's a really nice internal rotation on the shoulders. Good way to help warm them up. We're going to move from that then to performing a simple hang snatch. Now this, like I said, is just a 7-pound bar. So I can just take that as a movement where I pull as high as possible, turn the wrists over. I want to keep this bar as close to me as possible. I don't want it swinging way out in front. Let me turn to the side so you can see what that looks like. I'm pulling the bar just right along my body and lowering it along that same general plane. Okay, so we're going to follow that hang snatch with more of a full snatch movement. So we're going to move back down here to the knee level where we were doing those deadlifts with before. Initiate with a hip hinge, pull high over the head, then I'm going to lower back down behind my head. Now I'm getting a nice external rotation on the shoulder. A little bit larger movement. Good warm-up move. Going to move from this full snatch type of movement to an extended arm twist. I'm going to keep this snatch with the grip. I'm going to move the bar out in front and twist from side to side. Obviously now I'm departing a little bit from the snatch-based movements. I'm still using a snatch-based grip at this point, but the snatch is a very sagittal plane dominated movement, and I want to make sure we get some rotational movements. We're going to work on a little bit of lateral and rotational stability and strength building with this set of movements, rather than just staying all in that sagittal plane working on trunk stability. Interestingly, when you do those, you can actually put two variations on that. One is to try to keep the hips pointing forward as much as possible, which really tends to mobilize you in the thoracic spine region. Or you can twist the whole upper body as I was doing earlier, which tends to mobilize you more in the lumbar spine region. Okay, next move is going to be a side-to-side raise and twist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to maintain this snatch with the grip. I'm going to turn to the side. Now on extended arms, I'm going to lift the bar overhead, twist to the other side, and lower. Raise, twist, lower. Raise, twist, lower. Raise, twist, lower. So you can see we're working on some rotational component to that movement sequence as well. Now, if I'm doing this sequence as a warm-up, the next thing I'm going to do in here are some overhead squats with the bar. So, you know, guys know what that looks like. Just overhead, down into that rock bottom position, relax down there, fire back up from it. However, on a recovery day like today, or if I'm just beginning a fitness program and I'm using this for more of a GPP type workout, what I might want to do is take this bar, put it vertically, and let that assist me do some squats. I'm going to turn slightly to the side here so you can see these better. Deep squats, of course, gotten a bad name, and still carry a bad name to some people. The problem is not that squats are bad, the problem is that people do bad squats. So that movement actually needs to initiate with the hips. It's not that you're bobbing up and down like a cork or something like that. You want to initiate the movement with the hips moving back, then just drop yourself down into this lowest squat position that you're comfortable with. You may not be able to get into this lowest squat position, that's fine. If thighs parallel to the ground is where your comfort level is, that's fine. If you can only bend 20 degrees, if that's where your starting point is, that's fine, don't worry about it. Then you can use the stick to help pull you back up. I didn't do that very well, let me do that again. Talking kind of messed me up. Use the stick to help pull yourself back up, but try to keep that lower leg as perpendicular, your shin as perpendicular to the ground as possible. So, once again, suck down there, push it back up. Sometimes it's hard for me to talk and move at the same time. So, that's our assisted squat. That was back to working in the sagittal plane. Now we're going to work on a sagittal plane component, but it's going to challenge our lateral stabilization, which is a straight arm raise. So this is not like a snatch. The snatch was pulling the bar up here close to us overhead. This is going to be a straight arm raise. So it's going to be like this, and we're going to couple that with a reverse lunge. Alternate legs on those. So an overhead raise, into a reverse lunge, back up, overhead raise with a reverse lunge. Good move to challenge your unilateral stability, your lateral stability. That's the ninth movement. Now, these moves have all gone up in the dynamic nature, and the last move, number 10 in this set, actually brings in a more dynamic component and is a good cardiovascular conditioning exercise. For people just starting out, or if I'm doing this for warm-up, I do this for about a minute. You do about 1 a second on these pretty easily, so you can get a lot of these in a short period of time. Doing these with the 7-pound bar is, it'll get you a good warm-up, it'll get your blood flowing and your breath, your ventilatory threshold. You can begin to approach that with some of these. Use a bar or a loaded bar, and this is a really interesting exercise. I call it the jack press. So we're going to move to a narrower grip now, just slightly wider than your shoulders. Bring the bar to your chest. Now everybody's done jumping jacks before. This is basically a jumping jack, but rather than having that swing arm out there on the side, now we're going to do an overhead press in conjunction with our feet traveling side to side with the jump. So the jack press looks like this. So that's the 10th exercise in this sequence. Like I said, if I were doing this as a beginning workout system, about 10 reps of each of these, about a minute on the jack press. If you're still feeling really feisty after that, sequence it through again. You can increase it by doing more reps. You can increase it by doing more sets of the reps. You can increase it by doing heavier weights, or you can scale it back in those same ways. Less weight, less reps, less sets. So that's my warm-up progression. I guess I'm going to call this something like stick fit or bar fit or bar fit. That doesn't have a good ring to it. Anyway, that's the first sequence. It's a good warm-up sequence. Hope you enjoyed it.